Thank you, baby.
Okay. Okay, right there it is. Hello, hello. I see some familiar faces. We are about to go live for Tags Live in just a few seconds here. I think we're good. What is going on? You are listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition, where we are here every Wednesday night on the Crowdcast platform. I am your host, Steve V. This is episode 567 alongside partner in crime, Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing this evening? How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, really good. Many of you know that we pre-recorded episodes. So this is episode 567, and Tuesday we dropped episode 566 with Kyle Applegate, Reverend Kyle Applegate. And I just wanted to plug that episode just a little bit if I could, because if you haven't listened to it already, Kyle is a friend to the show. He's a friend, personal friend to Jeremy. Jeremy, actually, our co-host Jeremy, is a friend because he used to work with them at the Eagle, but also Kodi and myself. And we deep dived into a really great, I consider a great conversation about transgender issues that are today relating to his transition 23 years ago, if you will, which is,
Wow.
yeah, he's got a lot to say on all the hot topics that are relating to what you're seeing in the news today. And then we move on to polyamory, which he says he has a lot to say about that too, and how he's maintained that style of, he's married, has been married for years, 10 years, I believe. They just celebrated their anniversary, but he's also into polyamory and been in polyamorous relationships. And it's as entertaining as it is educational at the same time, from somebody that is a friend to the show. I just really am really happy and proud of this interview, and I invite all of you to listen to it if you haven't already. It's episode 566 with Reverend Kyle Applegate, so check that out. The other reason that the other reason that we pre-recorded it too was I mentioned that I was going on a little two-night overnight with a guy that I have been seeing here in New York for, I guess, last summer is when we first met and started to hang out. And this was our first. We went to P-Town. We took that long drive on Saturday night. It's about 4 hours from New York, and just got to listen to a lot of music on the way because it's 4 hours, Kodi.
What
Drank a
was the
lot of
playlist
sugar.
like? Was it good?
So what's interesting about the playlist is where we converge is our love of
Okay.
dance music, house
Okay.
music, dance, electronica. Where we differentiate, I'm a lot more R&B and
Yeah.
world, and he's country. And
Oh my.
we gave each other, we listened to mostly house dance music, my BBC radio, of course, all kinds of fun music. And then we had moments where we listened to his and then we listened to mine, and it was really fun actually hearing different styles. He liked hearing some of mine. Of course, we didn't like everything of it, but it was really cool. And I have to say, we stayed in a really cool studio in next door to P-Town called Truro, Truro, Truro. And I know this also because we went to a winery where we got these glasses after you ordered a glass at the Truro Vineyards. We went to, it's the beginning of the season in P-Town. So right now there was people there, but I imagine by Memorial Day, it's going to be totally crowded and busy. I personally loved this because you know me, I'm not Mr. Crowd. So for me, this was ideal. We bonded on so many levels. We went to a drag brunch our first day. That was super fun. And the drag queen went around. It was Mother's Day, right? So she's going around. She's like, I imagine there's a lot of people celebrating Mother's Day, but I'm going to go. Because it wasn't that big, she was able to go to every table and say, why are you here? What are you celebrating? When she got to us, She looked at me, and the person that I'm talking about that I was with is a little bit more, if you will, reserved or on the shyer side, as opposed to
Yeah.
me hosting a gay sex podcast that has an OnlyFans. And so I said, "Well, we are on our first overnight trip here in P Town." And she was like, "Really?" And she was kind of flirting with us, and she wanted to know, "How long have you guys been together?" And I looked at him, and I was,
Oh.
because we didn't really have that answer down. I had the
Uh-huh.
first answer down. I simply said, "We've been hanging out for a minute here," and
I
she,
mean, leave it to a drag queen, right? Because they're gonna.
yes. He too, but it was super fun. I'm just turning my volume down because I'm a little hot. Yes, it was really fun, and we just bonded on that. We went to, if people know Provincetown, P Town, they will know the boat slip, which has the daily, every single day from 4 to 7. They've got the tea dance, and I've been there where it's totally packed and several bars. Well, it's the second week of the tea dance, and it
Mhm.
was kind of fun going so early on. It definitely got a crowd. There was a woman that wanted to teach me disco dancing and partner disco
Ooh.
dancing, which I totally did and was fun. We just had a great time. We connected, and super happy. I don't know. I think the last time I tried to hang out with somebody that I was interested in, it didn't
Uh-huh.
go well. I think I met them with our co-host Jeremy in Rhode Island, and they came over the following week, and we tried to like hang out for Pride here in New York City, and it went
Uh-huh.
really awry. And we are fine now, but we were definitely not a match. So I haven't. This was really positive, and I'm,
Aw.
yeah. So, well, and we're both easy breezy. We're both of a certain age. It's fun. It's kind of fun, and that's not a word I use when I'm interested in somebody. So we laughed a lot. He teases me a lot, which I'm all for. I tease him a lot. Easy breezy, and that's all I got to say.
Well, I have some things to say, but I will wait till after we get on a private call because, I think this is great. I love that you guys had a great time. When you can spend that much time together and not be sick of each other, consider it something good. All right. All right. And just take it for what it is. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your,
Thank you.
thanks for spilling,
Yes.
mama, sister.
Yeah, of course, sister. We have a full show of hot topics because we didn't do Monday. We really need to get through all these hot topics. But first, I was going to talk about the twink thing, but we're going to get to our friend of the show, Sinfully, in a little
Okay.
while for another comment that he made. And I think I'd rather do that one because that one's juicier. But
Oh, yeah.
let's get into hot topics. And we all know that Pride is coming up. Pride Month is, people, our co-host, who I think is watching us right now, Teddy Alexis, reminds us that Pride happens all year long in different spots. But officially, if we were to look at the calendar, at least here in America, June is considered Pride Month. Well,
Mhm.
honey, there is a slew of hot topics that we have to start with, including LGBTQ plus Pride Month events could be targets of foreign terrorist security officials warn. And we're talking ISIS, you guys. And as of May 10th, the Federal Bureau, the FBI, basically warned Homeland Security. They released a public service announcement on May 10th highlighting an increased threat environment during Pride Month in June. And foreign terrorist organizations and their supporters may seek to exploit the large gatherings associated with Pride Month. And these groups have a history of promoting anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric. I'm talking about ISIS. In fact, if you remember, Kodi, do you remember? Obviously, you remember the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Yeah.
June 12th will mark the 8th anniversary of that horrific shooting that happened in Orlando in 2016 when a gunman murdered 49 people and injured 53. Well, ISIS actually celebrated that attack in propaganda as one of the high profile attacks in Western countries. So that just gives you a little bit of the incendiary sense of these potential attacks by ISIS, and the FBI and DHS outlined several indicators of potential threat activities. And what could they include? Violent online or in-person threats, unusual interest in security measures, and attempts to access restricted areas. And the agencies recommend that the public remain vigilant and report suspicious activity to local law enforcement or to the FBI. And, Kodi, it's like, this is not a fun story to report on, as
Yeah.
we haven't even entered Pride Month. But when the FBI and they warn us of these, to be vigilant, we want everyone to have fun. We want everyone to be safe. Have an eye, and third eye, if you will, the Greek third eye open. Just if you see something, and I'm just going to tell you a quick little brief story that my
Okay.
sister is really good in an emergency, and I noticed that she's better than most, even better than me. This will relate too,
She's a Cancer
because
like me.
she's a Cancer like you. You're probably really good at this too. We were at the airport heading off to Puerto Vallarta, and we were chit-chatting, a little bit frustrated because the line was taking so long. We knew our flight was, they wouldn't let us check in at the kiosks. We're in this long line and we're just like, yak, yak, yak. Oh my gosh, it's early. We're tired. And all of a sudden we hear this boom, and we look over, and I was like, oh my gosh. And this girl had literally fallen flat on her face, like she fainted. And I was like so struck. Of course, everybody started to huddle around her. She did come to, but something happened to her. I don't know if it was diet related or what.
Mhm.
Nobody, everybody was asking her how she was. My sister was the only one that called the 911 immediately.
Mhm.
And I've read a lot of stories recently, and even watched that show 911, and even watched public service announcements recently that say, even if you're in doubt, when in doubt, call it, because the 911 doesn't care if you think that there is something, a threat going on. React, do something. Even if it turns out that it was a false alarm, they would rather, don't call willy-nilly, but call if they will determine. And I think a lot of us freeze sometimes and we don't react. Call 911 if you, and relating to this, if you see something like the saying says, say something. And one way you can do that is security. You can call 911, you can run up to a police officer, and that's all why I'm saying that.
I love caller security. Okay. Security. Yeah, this is really wild that ISIS is going to be targeting us during Pride Month. But I will say that my head is constantly on a swivel. I'm always on the alert for anything bad that could be happening or transpire during these Pride gatherings, because like the story said, we're going to be in large groups, so that ultimately makes us a target. That's what goes on in the back of my mind, honestly. And so I get that we are looking for foreign terrorists as far as is concerned, but we also need to watch out for the domestic terrorists, because I always see people with signs out there saying God hates faggots or what have you,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So for me personally, it's going to be something that I always do, because those people are out there. They're galvanizing things like the Pulse nightclub shooting and the Club Q shooting and things of that nature. So I think everybody should just be safe and make sure that they are being aware of their surroundings at all times. I also have you were telling your 911 story. Sometimes the 911 operators are not too happy to get a call, because I was on 14th and like 7th Avenue in New York City, in Manhattan, and there was a homeless man that he was passed out on the floor. So of course he passed out right in front of me, I feel like, and I called 911 immediately, and they told me, well, they came, of course, but they told me when they got there that this is something that they do so they can have a bed to sleep in for the night. So they were going to take him to the
Mm.
hospital and take care of him, but they were like, he does this all the time. So that's what that made me think of, that story that you told.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, again, they're not going to be mad at, and you learned a little
Oh
bit
yeah, they're
about
not mad.
that specific story. I just think sometimes we don't think quickly enough. And but if you see something, I didn't realize that the airports actually have their own team ready to go, and a biker that was a health doctor came riding over from Terminal 2 over to our
Ooh.
terminal at SFO in a nanosecond. And we were able to tell 911 operator that we have somebody here who's a doctor on board of the SFO airport. And yeah, and prides often have that in place as well. But you just I think we need to. It was a lesson really for me too to react a little bit quicker too and do something
Well,
versus
don't
I
beat
think a
yourself
lot
up
of
too
us
much.
freeze. So yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
but that's a natural
w-
response to trauma,
natural
freezing.
response, but when you get a warning that there could be potential threats, we need to be a little bit higher on alert, still have fun, but
Prepare
just
yourself.
be aware. And I do that when I walk out the door in this New York City that I live in, as well as wherever I go. So, okay. And staying on Pride, if you remember last year, Target had a lot of LGBTQ plus merch that was out, and they got a little bit of flack in certain regions of the country. I'm talking about America here because it a lot of people like was destroying it. You remember that, Kodi? Conservative
Mhm.
backlash, and people were going in there and actually destroying the Pride merchandise. Well, the this year Target is actually going to scale back on its LGBTQ plus merchandise ahead of Pride Month, and not everywhere, but in certain regions. And it's interesting that they're going to do it in certain regions because of last year, but I think what's and we'll relate it to another story is they're probably going to do it in regions that have a more conservative population. And there was a TikToker, actually, Don Martin on TikTok, that was warning, had a message for Gen Zers, particularly LGBTQ plus Gen Zers, that have said, oh, pretty much fuck large corporate businesses that
Mhm.
act like they want to support us when it's convenient for them every Pride Month. Just support local businesses was his thing. And his whole messaging was actually, if you live in big cities, you are used to seeing gay prides or prides all around you. In fact, many times, if you live in certain areas like here in New York, you can go to Queens Pride, Brooklyn Pride. The Manhattan has its own pride. There's several prides. If you're on the West Coast, there's tons of prides.
Yeah.
Not everyone grows up like that, and many people grow up in rural areas where if you even have a pride. So his whole messaging was before you write off big business, think about the rural areas that something like a Target actually shows representation that I exist, that I matter. And his whole message is that instead of dividing us like, oh, get rid of big business and we shouldn't have that, it's like, no, no. I think that you need to think of these smaller areas. And back to this story of Target, I think they're probably going to be limiting the merchandise in these rural areas where there was conservative backlash. And that's only going to be the opposite of what we really need. We probably don't need it in New York City and Los Angeles and Chicago because we've got tons of merch and support and allies that will support our community. Where we really do probably need it is in these smaller areas. And probably, I would guess, that's where Target is going to be rescinding some of this merch that could be a big deal for a person that doesn't see a lot of representation. What do you say to all this?
Uh, I I have one thing to say to Target. It's do better because I feel like this is the time when they were supposed to show us how much they support us and support the ideals of what America is founded on and be accepting of all people, but they chose not to. So they can definitely do better. I forgave them for last year. I went to Target the other day, but now I am back on my bullshit as far as Target is concerned. As far as what the TikToker said, I do agree with him. I think that this is something that is very important. I think that in smaller areas, and I can tell you because I've lived in more populous areas and I've lived in more rural areas. I'm in a rural area right now.
We're about to get
And
to
I can
you, Kansas, over there for another story.
and I can tell you in both places, it seeing that type of representation in a large store, it's very affirming. But I can tell you from both viewpoints that seeing it there in a more urban area is different than seeing it here because I feel like honestly, I feel like here I have to kind of hide who I am a little bit. I feel like I am stifled in my gayness here. I feel like that is something that if I am too flamboyant, then something bad can happen. That if I am living my best gay life all of the time, then I feel like that is something that could be a detriment to me in this space. So I feel like I'm a little bit held back. I'm more reserved when it comes to living in this space that I am right now. So seeing that in the Targets or the Walmarts or Macy's, I don't know what else they have here. It's very affirming and it sends a message that you can be yourself no matter where you are. So I totally get that. And also as far as the big businesses are concerned, I think that when we when they get behind us, and that's one thing for the gay community, and that's fabulous. But also, they help mold the minds and change the minds of all of society as far as America is concerned and beyond. So I think this is something that's very important. So they all need to get on the same page and make sure they're on the right side of history, darling.
They really do, and they should really invite members of prominent members of our community, I think, on their board because I forget the story said where they're located, where Target is located, and I think is it Seattle that they're located in, where I could be wrong on that. Whatever city they're located in, they mentioned that during Pride, they actually have community members. They have a huge presence in the city that Target is actually located in, and it's really great. But I got to tell you, Kodi, on my drive back from my little overnight rendezvous that I just
Uh-huh.
had, we did a huge hike in Connecticut, and when we were done with it, we drove over to. We're like, okay, it's Monday and let's get a bite to eat so we can avoid some traffic. And we looked up on Google restaurants and found a spot that we could eat at. Went to it. It was really cool, actually. And then I'm pretty sure the bartender that we sat, because we sat at the bar, was gay. But there was a guy that walked in right when we did too, with the most heinous sweater, I have to say. It was like matching and it was awful. But he had one of those, like, I'm just gonna like call him out. He had like one of those headset that goes around one ear and like a mic here,
Like
always
Janet
in his
Jackson
ear, kind of.
in her
And
concerts.
I felt like was looking over at us because two guys coming in, even though he had a friend join him later, but it was more like
Mhm.
bro this, bro that. I felt like he was in my eye line, not my friend's eye line that I was with. At one point, my friend, we were having a good time, leaned in and gave me a big kiss on the mouth. And
Aw.
because it was natural, like a natural moment, not like we made out. He just leaned in and it was a natural moment and he kissed me. I know that that guy had a side eye on us and was like confirming
It was
I
human.
knew they were gay. Not that anything happened, but to your point, I did feel the maybe more like what you were saying that conservative. I think you and I are so used to the big city that when you are in some of these other areas, and by the way, Connecticut is very liberal. It's
Yeah.
just that I was in a spot on a Monday night that was maybe not a New York City
Yeah.
establishment and I did feel that, but nothing happened and it was all good. And it's not like, there was no trouble. I just say I'm relating to you. And that's why I'm saying that.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, and thank you for, affirming me. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. But I will say I have felt like that in New York before, but it happens a lot less than it does here. It's almost constant here. So,
Right. We are live, of course. And Doug, watching us live, says we had our first Pride where I live only 4 years ago. And we asked him in our little chat here, where do you live? And he said, how do you say it?
Schuylkill.
Schuylkill. Oh, is that
Schuylkill.
how Schuylkill
Yeah.
County,
It's near
Pennsylvania.
Philly.
I
You know
love
I'm a
it.
Philly boy.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we asked you. Minneapolis. Thank you also, Doug. Minneapolis is where Target is the headquartered, and that's where they're going to have a huge presence. So I think, in some ways, Target takes a couple steps forward and then they always take a few steps back. And I just wish they would put some more people in our community on the board to really
Yep.
talk this out before they make these decisions before Pride Month, because I think they're ruffling a few feathers. Mike S., watching us live, says, it's so nice to live in Bangkok. Oh my gosh, yes, Mike, that's right. Where Gay Pride Month is no big deal. It's no big deal, or is it a big deal, but with less, everyone's accepting of it? Is it a big, but thank you, Mike, for weighing in for our international audience. And by the way, when is Gay Pride Month in Bangkok? Because Kodi, we gotta go.
I know, right? Let's go to Bangkok. I mean, it's got two of my
Yes.
favorite words in it.
It's a big deal, but no controversy. Thanks for the clarification. Okay, well, we have to talk about this hot topic that was on every news cycle, and it's to do with NFL kicker Harrison Butker, who basically gave a commencement address for basically for a Catholic college in Kansas, where you're at, Kodi. And he was the commencement speaker. The Kansas Chiefs kicker delivered the commencement address last weekend at Benedict College, which, like I said, is a very conservative Catholic school in small town Kansas. It took about 85 seconds before he went in on Joe Biden's COVID policies, and less than 2 minutes before he actually proclaimed things like homophobic stuff and things against women. Can you believe this, Kodi? I mean, it
No.
was. I'll read you a couple of the things just to give you guys a little bit of more context. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs. They just won the Super Bowl. If you have been living under a rock,
Like this man.
Travis Kelce, who's dating, is also on the team. He's the quarterback, Kodi, I think.
Travis Kelce is the quarterback, yes.
Travis Kelce is the quarterback
1,000
who
points.
is currently dating Taylor Swift. Okay.
Yes.
So with that, he said things like, quote, I have leaned into. So by the way, one more contextual moment. Commencement addresses for people that are moving on at post college usually are uplifting and usually are all about inspiring and really contextualizing your last 4 years, but really having you look ahead on, of course, bringing in pop culture and life, but like inspiring you on your road ahead. He was really, actually, if you listen to the speech, Kodi, it was really negative, nasty, really showing that he's a far right person and has no time, a religious person. And I get it, it's a Catholic institution, but still, to give him some props, he did not have any booze, and people cheered him at the end of it. But here's some of the things, and then you decide. Quote, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and a father and a man, said Butker. Men, quote, men set the tone of the culture, and when this is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. And from there, he went on to rip on our community, and I'm talking about the LGBTQ plus community. He rallied against, quote, dangerous gender ideologies and slammed pride. He said Catholic people should take pride, quote unquote, pride in atavistic teachings, not homosexuality. Quote, not the deadly sins sort of pride that has the entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify him. He lectured, according to this article, which did sound more like a lecture than a commencement speech. How hateful and vile was this? But what do you say, Kodi, I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack on this. he did get a standing ovation. He did probably speak to his people at this Catholic institution. He said a lot of things against women that I believe basically misogynistic, said
Yes.
that they might be successful at some point, but he probably believes that they want to really have a family and raise and be at home. It's gross. What does Taylor have to say? I don't know.
It'll be in her next album. So first things first, correction. Travis Kelce is a tight end, not the quarterback.
Okay, thank you. Well, we
You
don't know
know
these
what?
things.
Yeah, exactly, girl. I literally typed that in.
We got it right at least when we said they won the Super Bowl, but okay.
And he's on some football team. That's all we know. And as far as tight ends, I have to see that to believe that. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. um, this man, however, is wild. This is insane. He lives in the Stone Age, as far as I'm concerned. I was only a little bit disheartened by his comments on the LGBTQ plus community because honestly, coming from a man that looks like that, I kind of expect it. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. But his thoughts
But why?
on
Let me stop you on that.
go
Why
ahead.
include? Why include us? Why, if your job is, if you are lucky enough to deliver a speech that's supposed to inspire future young adults that are going to go into the world that have had this huge achievement of graduating from an institution, why bring negativity and actually degrade a whole community of people?
Especially when we don't do that to them. Okay, you never
Thank
catch
you.
us out here trying to speak down on straight people in
We
a
don't.
commencement speech. That's not something that the gay community does. Number one. Number two. This man is ass backwards, and that should be enough answer for us because he spoke ill about women as well. Like this is completely unnecessary. It was to further his own agenda as far as his thoughts on everything that is wrong with this community and this country per se. He goes on to say that he doesn't understand why it's time for them to stop being the church of love. I have it in here in my notes. The church of nice, okay? And from my point of view, I want to say, what is this church based off of? It's based off of Jesus. Jesus was the king of nice. Jesus was welcoming to everybody. So if anybody has the church and its teachings backwards, it is this man. This man does not represent the Catholic Church. He definitely does not. My mother is a Catholic. He does not represent my mother. He does not respect the type of Catholic that I was raised to be. He is an idiot. He is the type of person that you do not want to be next to or commune with or do anything with as far as relating to them is concerned. His thoughts on women are absolutely insane. He wants them to go back into the kitchen and not
Of
have their
women
own
that had just
lives.
graduated from a major institution.
Who
So,
says that to
and
somebody
he
that just
says,
graduated?
and if you listen to it, he says, I would imagine that most of you women, I would, so now he's imagining what women, and the fact that he says, it's basically, he's saying it's a man's world, which is, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what is this, 1950? As you
Right?
were speaking, I was taking some notes and having some thoughts based on
Will
what
you
you were
take notes
saying
from
and what I
what
was
I say?
saying. I feel like are we in this really backlash period of white men
Mm-hmm.
in
We
general?
definitely
I
are.
mean, the Tom Brady roast that just happened recently, where Tom Brady
Is it good?
produced a roast on himself for Netflix, he was an executive producer, was less of a roast on Tom Brady and more on Giselle, his ex-wife, and
Oh.
yeah, calling out to him. Trump recently is, of course, speaking to all these people. I feel like old white men are having their time right now. Seinfeld has recently been fiery, saying a lot of things against comedy isn't funny anymore. Bill Maher has really been calling out, also another white man and straight man. And I just think that we're in this time right now where white men feel threatened and they have to like assert themselves in when they get the stage. and it just comes off ugly. It's like, sorry, the pendulum is swinging a little bit.
Mhm.
Don't feel threatened by the fact that women and people of color and the LGBTQ plus are finally, I can't say that enough, Cece Peniston, having our moment. That don't feel threatened by us. Be in like, we can all exist, and we should not be a
Yeah.
threat to you who have ruled and existed for umpteen years. It's like, calm down, take a seat, and yes, we are not mad at you, but don't be mad at us.
Yeah, and this man is not young. I mean, it's not old. He's actually quite young. He's only 28. So I don't understand where this
There's a
antiquated.
newer protocol out there right now, so
Yeah. So I think that,
Mm-mm.
we need to do what we need to do as far as fighting against this ideology, because they're out here trying to spin it against us. So I think that women need to get together with gays, and he took shots at diversity and inclusion as well. So everybody needs to come together to fight this patriarchal white supremacy that's going on in this country. Boom.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, we are fired up because we have so many hot topics to get to tonight. And by the way, this show is sponsored by Joy Mode. You want to really check it out. It's one of my favorite supplement that I've been using to get hard naturally, and actually without those chemicals and things that you don't know about when you get those pills in the gas station or even prescribed medication. I also use it when I go work out because it's a really good pre-workout. It's a pre-workout for sex, but it's also a good pre-workout just for blood flow for my workouts. And I'm talking about the Sexual Performance Booster. It's got all kinds of really good natural things in it, like L-citrulline, and just really things that we know, and it will really help you out. Right now, you can get 20% off. They have these little sachets. You just put it into 6 to 8 ounces of water before you're going to have sex or work out. And I've been using it, and it's working for my OnlyFans. It's working for my workouts. And what could be better than that, Kodi? All you got to do
Right?
is go to usejoymode.com/tags, and then use our promo code tags, where you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. Support our sponsors, our partners, because they really keep us going, and we really thank Joy Mode. Okay, this was a hot topic that I've been seeing all over New York. It sounded really cool to begin with, but of course, people always have to ruin things, Kodi. I'm talking about, it makes me so incensed. Essentially, here in New York City and in Dublin, Ireland, there is a portal here in New York City in the Flatiron District, and then in Dublin, where essentially it's this huge portal that has a camera that if you went up to it would be filming you on one side and then filming Dublin. And when I first
Oh,
heard about this story, I was really excited, and it
you
sounded so
thought, why
innocent and
Dublin?
yeah, I thought it sounded so cool. And there was I saw a news story of it where a girl who lives here in New York knew that her sister was vacationing in Dublin. And she said, oh my gosh, there's this portal. Go to it in Dublin. I'll go to it at this particular time, and we'll be able to wave to each other. And, kind of innocent and natural, which, you could go on FaceTime, by the way, and talk to somebody. We are in that technology today. But it was just so cool to know that people were connecting on this platform that was more global, if you will.
Yeah.
And that girl did ultimately find her sister. She went at the same time. Of course, it was hours later because we're on different time zones, and it was really cool. Well, we had to fuck it up because in Dublin, somebody posted a picture, like a live picture, when they went up to of the Twin Towers. 9/11, the Twin
What?
Towers, when we used to have like almost like taunting us, which is gross, right? But
That is
Much
horrific.
New York wasn't much better because an OnlyFans creator, a woman, because I'm on OnlyFans. I would never do this, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, the men would never do this. No.
Well, maybe because we
No.
couldn't go, the camera couldn't go that low. That's
Oh.
why I wouldn't do it. But where she flashed her tits on the camera and promoted her OnlyFans. And now it's like they shut it down in both countries
Oh
because people
no.
can't. Yeah, but they're going to revamp it. Of course, now you can imagine they're going to have security there, and you're going to have to, like, one at a time
Security.
and monitor. But it's like, I mean, so stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
keep your junk in. I mean, there's a time and a place, but we are in a time where we will taunt people about. I mean, really, taunting people about 9/11 is
Yeah,
gross.
that is way over the top. That is too much. Because if there was an atrocity in Dublin, I would not ever taunt anybody about what happened to them. That shows a lack of empathy for something horrific that happened in a time and place, in that specific place, basically. I think this
Yeah.
is a really great idea. And if people know how to act, I think it should continue. I think that it's something that we could see in Tokyo and London and Paris and a number of places. Oh, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Oh
Oh,
my goodness. Can you
okay.
imagine? I would like to see
I
some
think it's
OnlyFans creators from there for sure.
the concept is really cool, I think, in many ways. And
Yeah.
I just hope that people recognize that because, as they always say people ruin it. And
Yeah.
I think in this case, it's almost like school. It's like, you remember when you used to get little things, you could do this or that, and then somebody would do something, and it's like, okay, no more recess outside because it's now recess inside because
Because
little,
Becky couldn't keep her tits in her shirt.
yeah, little Jackie over here couldn't keep it together, and everyone's all pissed off at Jackie, and it's just like, no. Well, I think they're gonna figure it out because that's what we got to do and move
Yeah.
on, and we're not gonna penalize everybody. Thank goodness. Okay, well, we have to talk about some health news that relates to us, and there is recently a book, and we're talking about PrEP in the next two stories. And there's a woman that wrote a book, Beth Ashley, header by Yosef Felon, about a brand new book called Sluts, where Beth Ashley explores how the invention of PrEP birthed a new form of slut shaming in in an excerpt from her forthcoming book. And PrEP is one of, we all know, she says things like, in 2012, when it was first introduced, it was a huge thing. And in 2016, in the EU and in Australia, it made its way there. In 2015, research paper said that PrEP whores and HIV prevention, the queer communication of HIV pre-exposure, researchers found that the arrival of PrEP created a new category of queer people. So she documents all that. And again, back to our earlier story, Kodi, where, when you live in the big city, I think that I think we did feel a little bit of that PrEP shaming and that horror
Yeah.
shaming a few years ago, but haven't felt that in a long time. And so it
Yep.
almost seems like, is this really a thing still happening? But she points out things like a woman that is in a polyamorous bisexual relationship went to go get on PrEP from her doctor here in America. And her doctor said, well, why would you want to be on that? And implied that she should just use condoms. And that was just recently here.
Wow.
There's also, as we know, a shortage of problems in some areas in the UK, Ireland, and mainland Europe, as well as Australia, New Zealand. Also, we know that Black and Brown communities, as we talk about it always on this show, are not getting PrEP, using PrEP, and getting it at the same levels that our white counterparts are at. So she might still have a message about this
Yeah.
whole thing. And again, getting out of our bubble. What do you say to this?
I totally see it. I think that it's something that is an underlying current as far as what people are, how they feel about PrEP. And the automatic go to is that if you're on PrEP, you are being promiscuous. And I don't think that that should be something that people equate with one another. I think that the equation should be, if you're on PrEP, you care about your health. basically.
Yes,
So
and that was the
I
yeah.
I think that that's something that should be more affirmed, and that should be the automatic go-to. I often wonder if people are on prep here. I actually have to ask when I'm on
When you
Grinder
say here,
or
you were talking
oh,
about
I mean in
Kansas.
Kansas. Yes, I mean Kansas. Hope
Sorry, that's
everybody
my
knows I'm in
journalistic side
Kansas.
coming in and being like, "What did you mean by
Gotta
that?"
gotta clarify. When I'm here in Kansas, I always have to, ask if I'm going to, which I haven't been
Yeah.
doing very much lately. But it
No,
is
but,
something. Yeah, it's something to inquire about as far as people's, their health and how they feel about protecting themselves from potential infection. So it's something that I always ask, and I don't know. I do think it's prevalent here, but I'm not quite sure. It's something that I have to investigate more. I feel like.
do so if you can on a little research project for the
Oh, I have a
show.
project for the
You've got a
show
project?
where I have to investigate the number percentage of guys that are on
Don't
prep
make me
here.
give you a
Okay.
Dateline investigative reporter
All right.
assignment because,
Roving
we'll go.
reporter Kodi Maurice Doggette here with I'll
Okay, we've
interview
got to
the
get to
next
these
person I
next
hook up with.
stories because in our meeting, we were all about these next two stories. One started from, actually, I'll preface it. One started from a Reddit thread that we were like, say what? And then another one triggered from one of our listeners that follows us sinfully on Instagram. And we're going to pair these two stories up. You'll see what I'm talking about. On a recent Reddit thread, the headliner said, "You don't look younger than your age." Okay, hear me out. They wrote, "This came up in another popular post. People lie about their age online. And in defense, they say, quote, everyone says I look younger for my age." This person wrote, "You don't. Really, you don't. It's okay. You look your age. Trust us. We all do." Meaning we all look our age. Of course, when you tell someone, they wrote, your when you tell someone your age, they're going to say you look younger. That is basic human kindness. A little bit of mindless flattery. We have all done it. You've done it to yourself, but look in the mirror, dude. You look your age, and that's okay. It's okay to look any age or be any age. Hey, being old is better than the alternative. We're glad you're here. Be a beautiful you at your age. That's the only you've got. Thank you for reading this well-intentioned public service message. And Kodi, well, I like his messaging on accept yourself and be
Mhm.
yourself, which I totally agree with and think that that's a beautiful sentiment. I also think not everybody looks the same, and we don't all, I disagree with him. We don't all age the same at all. And people have told me before, you look young. I mean, my doorman, who has no interest in me at all, has flipped over himself when he knew the age that I was. And it's like, and sometimes they blame it on, oh, well, you're Latino, so you've got that
Mhm.
like Latin blood in you, you've got that melanonin in you that keeps your skin younger. And it was the same thing when I was a gymnast too. It's like, oh, you've got those muscles or you're flexible. Well, you were a gymnast, so and it's like, you know what? If that makes you happier to make yourself feel better, that yes, I'm flexible because I was a former gymnast 800 years ago, great. If it makes you feel better to say that I'm younger because I have a lot of more melanonin,
Melanin.
melanin in my skin, hey, I always attribute it to my mother, who really does look a lot younger. Oh, there's some thumbs up there. Who does look a lot younger than her age. She's about to be 87. I don't think we all look the same age. I totally disagree with this person. I think a lot of us lie about our age. I actually don't lie about my age. I actually overshare my age to my sister says, stop sharing your age. You always talk about your age. I
I
do.
agree
I'm
with
so
her.
honest about that. But it's like, I don't think we all look the same age. So I totally disagree. What do you say to this?
I think this person looks their age
Okay.
because I surely do not.
And I agree. There's nothing wrong with looking your age or even
There's
older than
nothing
your
wrong with that.
age.
I'm not shaming, but everybody is different, like you said, and I do not look how old I am. I
You do
constantly
not.
if people ask me how old I am, I say to them, how old do I look? So that I can, gauge what it is that they think how old they look, how old I look. And I'll give him this. People always undershoot how old you look, but when they undershoot entirely way too much for me personally. So I understand where they are coming from about accepting how old you are. I think that is something that comes with age and self-acceptance. But I can say for sure, certainly, that I do not look my age. And I
You
know a lot of
definitely
people,
don't.
you definitely don't. And this is not like a circle jerk moment here where we're just
Thank
gassing each
you.
other up. I am telling you from my heart that you do not look your age. And I know that I don't look my age.
And
So
that's fine.
and it's neither
It
here
makes
nor
us
there.
different. It's neither here nor there. I mean, I have been with people that even look older than their age. It's not
That
a
the
good
kicker
or
from the story
bad.
earlier, he looks older.
Yes, there's a lot of people that look older, and I've been attracted to people that look older than their age, I think. And it's not like you get more points. Maybe in society you do, of course. We all, I think, in general, many of us want to look younger. We do I do a lot of skincare things to look as youthful as I can. Believe me, I do. I will share that with you. But we are not a monolith. We don't all, when you turn a certain age, look the same age. And this is what this person is
Well,
saying. And it's like, while I like their sentiment on be the best you and be a beautiful you at your age and be happy that you're alive, I think is wonderful. But to say that we all look, you know, you don't look younger than you think you are doesn't isn't always. I mean, I'm sure there are people that say they're younger and think that and believe the hype and maybe look their age, but not everybody does. And so
but
it's
not
like,
here.
calm down. And we're going to pair. Yeah, that's our little thing on that. But we have a listener that we love him, Sinful Lee on Instagram, who often has a little combo going on with us behind the scenes. And he had a question for the two of us, Kodi and myself. Asked us, so when you two talked about, because in a recent topic we were talking about sniffies and how on a new part of sniffies you can actually put in
Filter.
age range
Hmm.
and dick size
I believe so. Tick size, definitely.
and
I
something
think
else.
also top or bottom position.
Yeah, and but it was one of them. One main things was about age. You could filter out about age, and so
Hmm.
that's what he's asking about. And he said you talked about the age filter, and you and I, Kodi, mentioned how you both, like we both said that we looked younger than our age, and if guys filtered you out based on your age, then those connections could be filtered out. So his question is, do you, to the both of us, think guys who generally wouldn't hook up with or date a guy over a certain age, but in instances where the guy looks younger than their age, they give that guy a pass? Is that still a form of ageism? It's a little worded interestingly, but I get what he's
You,
actually saying. He's basically saying, oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you, baby. Yeah.
He's basically saying that when guys think that we look younger than our age, do we give them a pass? Well, I don't really. uh, okay, back to the original story. I don't lie about my age pretty much ever. And if you've listened to the show ad nauseum, I said I don't use the apps, and I really don't. I mostly meet pretty much everybody when I go out at cruise bars, at sex clubs, at regular bars. 9 times out of 10, that's where I'm meeting people. I'm really honest. I have a sex podcast here where I've said I'm 53, which I currently am. I've said it 100 times where my sister says, "Stop saying your age." But I can't lie. I'm just so like, I just can't lie. But people do tell me that I look younger than I am. So I guess the question that he's asking is, would I give them a pass? I don't know that I'm really. This is a question for me. It's more of a question for you, I guess. Or is it a question
Oh.
for me?
I think that he's asking, is this a form of being ageist? And is that something that we're okay accepting, basically, is what he's trying to say.
I have one more thing to say, and then I want to hear
Go ahead.
from you.
Okay.
I wish people wouldn't put those age restrictions on, because
Mhm.
like that original Reddit thread that we read, not everybody looks the same age. And when you put those age restrictions on, say, a party, only people under 30 or under 40 can come to this party. And believe me, there are those types of parties. You are eliminating a certain percentage of people if you're trying to go for a certain look. That certain people, I've had people tell me, a guy I was seeing in Puerto Vallarta said, I've always wanted to date a poppy, but they didn't look like you. That's his quote. And I said, oh, well, okay. And anyways, the point is we are not a monolith. We don't all look the same. And so I do think that I wish we wouldn't put some of those age restrictions, because we don't all look alike. And
Yeah,
if somebody did include me into their group, yes, I would go, to answer your question,
there it
because
is.
I would be like, I am going to represent
You's a
that
bad
we
bitch.
don't all look alike. And if somebody asks me my age, I'm like, yes, I'm 53, motherfucker. Look at this
There it
dick.
is.
Look at I'm showing up. You got a problem with me? I'll go. But let's do a
Love it.
poll in this whole room here. And if everybody wants me to go because I exceeded the age range, I'll go. But if you don't want this dick, and if everyone, then I'll gladly pick up my bags, put on my hat, call an Uber, and bag lady at Erica
Put your
Badu it
underwear back
away.
on. Love it. Yeah, I agree with you totally. So I feel like I don't lie about my age either, unless you consider omission a lie. So I'm not as upfront about with it as you are, I feel like.
Right.
But it's
But you
just
don't lie about it either.
if somebody asks me straight up, I will tell them how old I am. Of
Yeah.
course, I'll run around the bush 8 million times, but I will always say how old I am.
No, and I concur.
Yes, thank you. So I also feel like this may come from a place of privilege because I do look younger than my age, but I feel like, yes, it's a form of ageism for me to look younger and for me to be accepted into younger spaces. But it's
Kodi,
something that
stop.
I'm
It's
go ahead.
is it not it's not privilege, it's
It
you.
is. It's pretty
This If
privileged.
we
I
go
feel like it
back
is.
to, it's not privilege, it's you being you. It's you being your beautiful self. It's if you're buying into society that says that young youth is beauty, but you are just you. And this person
Yeah,
is saying that everybody looks their age. It's like, no, we don't all look our age. That's not necessarily a problem for
it's true.
people.
You know what? I feel like I see what you're saying, and I get it because you feel like people are should be accepting of people of any age, and I think that that's kind of where you're coming from, but that's not the way society works from my personal experience. And yes, it is a privilege for me to be accepted into these spaces because somebody else my age that actually looks their age, and trust me, I've seen people that are my age and they do not all look the same as me, and they will not be accepted into these spaces. So I feel like, yes, it is a privilege, but I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
I hear you.
So I think that this is something that I am completely okay with because of my status as far as me being someone that is more quote unquote conventionally attractive and looks younger than their age. So I see what it's saying, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight against the machine on this one.
I'm not going to fight against the machine either. And like I said before, I've been attracted to people that definitely look older.
Me too.
I I think I've asked my friends, my sisters, like, so my friend, when I was dating somebody recently a few years ago that I had a huge crush on back in the 90s, and then we
Hmm.
reunited, he didn't he looks great today, but he definitely looks we're the same exact age. He looks way older even than our age is, but he works out a lot. He looks I was attracted to him. So
That's all that
but the
matters.
reality is he looks older. So this person that acted like, you all look your age. No, we're not all the same. And it's actually okay if you look older. It's actually okay if you look younger. Now, what to your point, society, of course, values youth and puts youth on a pedestal and youthful looks. I get that too. I participate in that. I do everything I can to look as young as I and youthful as I can. Believe me. But
Mm,
I have been
yes.
attracted and
So
drawn to
sorry.
people that definitely look a lot older than their age, and I'm don't hold that. It is what it is. Just like
Yeah,
I
it is.
can't control that I look younger than my age. It
Yes.
is what it is. But I understand the societal argument, and I get that because I live in this society. And with that, our last segment, which we do not want to shortchange, is called Thirst Trap.
Yes.
And for those of you watching live, it's our weekly straight up gay porn, which you can go to. They ask the question, which one of these porn stars, this week it's 10 gay porn stars, who took the best photo? It's our job on an audio podcast, because of course this show gets repackaged, to determine and decide why they were the winner. And you'll be happy to know that Nico Koopa won last week, Kodi.
It's our pick. We both picked him, but
We did,
you
but I went in a different direction because everybody was picking that because we had guests on the show last
exactly.
week.
I mean, and everybody picked him in the poll too, so everybody picked his poll. Sorry, what?
I'm going to go with Sammy Fitness this week because I actually posted a small plug to my OnlyFans just for fans and my Twitter account. But actually, this week I posted a picture very similar to Sammy Fitness, where I have almost exactly where his legs are in the air. You can see his face. This is the picture I took. Well, my dick is hard, rock hard. He's got a very thick cock, which is really nice. And he's showing his asshole. And I haven't done that
Ooh.
yet, other than I've gotten
Oh,
fucked on camera. But uh, I showed my asshole in this picture that I posted today on my OnlyFans just for fans. And it was my hole. And I said, here's the whole story. But my dick was so
love
he
it.
gets my pick because he's doing exactly what I was doing today. And it resonated with me. And he looks delicious. Sammy Fitness. I
Do we
see
have a new
you. I
sister?
see the hole. I salute that hole. Sammy Fitness. Doug says
Yes.
Sammy
Well,
Fitness too.
I love it. And I think there were so many good ones this week.
Really?
Lipe Scorpion, Phoenix Fellington. But my favorite of the week, my vote
Let's
goes
go.
to Eric Ray. And he's in an apartment. There's a beautiful
In
landscape
an
out
apartment.
behind
I like
him.
that.
And he's completely naked from head to toe. He's all greased up. And he's got his booty in the camera. It's nice and plump and delicious.
Oh, I
And
see. Oh, I
he's
see
got this
him.
pink hat on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Oh,
definitely my
it's
speed right there.
it's buttered up.
Oh, he looks like he's ready to go in the oven and baked at 350. He is all
No more
greased
than
up
350,
from
no
head
more
to
than 20
toe.
minutes. It's a tight 20-minute
It
moment.
is you know what? He's got his booty in the camera and he's got this look on his face where he's like, come and eat it. And he's got his hand on this little plush chair that he has and
Delicious.
he's ready to be bent over. It's fantastic. It's a great picture.
Vote on these because it keeps straight up gay porn.
And
And at the
Elijah
end of
Zane.
the And okay, yes, Elijah Zane as well. It keeps this segment, which we love, and we love straight up gay porn because they actually choose a king at the end of the year. So you don't want to miss that. Stick with us, kid, because we've got you covered. You can always, next week, a couple of announcements. Next week, we are launching season 8 of this podcast that you've known and come to know called TAGSPodcast. It's our 8th year. And we've got some surprises coming your way. We want you to be involved in them because there's some really cool things coming your way. So check us out next week. We'll be promoting it through Pride, but get to the launch of us and check us out. You can always follow my co-host Kodi. He's a life coach on Instagram at KMD Coaching, but follow his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Mr. Maurice. And of course, download the song that is inspired by this show, sung by Kodi Maurice. It's called Talk About It. It's really good. And he apparently is recording new music. So we want to stay tuned for that. Follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V. I am _Steve V. Or go to my Twitter account at TAGSPodcast, the name of the show, where you get a preview of my Just for Fans or my Only Fans. And I see you, and I thank everybody that has been supporting that, because as much as I love to talk about gay sex, I love to show it now. And I'm very happy with it. So in the meantime, Kodi, let's continue to have hot
Hot
gay
gay sex.